Boa tarde. Eu não quero criticar o seu livro. Você não acha do Menino do Pijama Listrado, quando no final as pessoas ficam com dó de um menino alemão, quando 6 milhões de judeus estão morreram?
Well, first off, people should be sorry for the German boy because he's done nothing wrong, and he has this terrible fate. So you should feel sympathy for the German boy. I can't direct an audience to how they feel. There's two characters at the centre of this book, Bruno and Shmuel, and it's Bruno's story. First and foremost, and his journey that you go on. So naturally, it is his story which is the one which the reader is left affected by the most. But if the reader chooses to sympathise with Bruno over all the other people who died, that's their choice, that's not my choice. You're the reader, you make your decisions. I certainly do not feel that it was my intention. I appreciate your point because people have said this at times as a criticism of the book. I'm so sorry that people feel that way, but it's kind of your choice as the reader, where your sympathies lie.
Você disse que sempre foi um leitor voraz, sempre se viu como um escritor, começou a escrever aos 8, 9 anos. Que tipo de autores, na sua formação, de quem você gosta? Sejam autores já novos ou coetâneos, contemporâneos seus? Pode falar que aqui ninguém, não tem nenhum livro desse, você pode falar nome, esse menino vai ficar magoado.
Well, I think the first writer who had made a real impression on me was Dickens, and I started reading Dickens when I was about 12, and the orphan books, particularly David Copperfield, Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, the novels where young boys were left on their own in the world, having to make their own way in the world. I like those kind of books. The novel I wrote about the bounty is very much based on that type of thing. So Dickens certainly was a huge influence, and the young characters in my books often read that kind of literature. I mentioned Bruno reads Treasure Island. I wrote a short novella called The Dare, where the boy is reading David Copperfield all the way through it. I'm writing a book at the moment where the young character is reading The Man in the Iron Mask. So I always like those big, epic, adventure storytelling type of books. Alexander Dumas, Victor Hugo, the kind of books which people don't write anymore. Robert Louis Stevenson. But books that transcend age groups. Where are the authors doing that type of thing? Safon does it, I think. Palestra and Safon does it. But there's very few authors who write those big adventure stories anymore than anybody when you're 10 years old or 90 years old can read. I like that kind of thing. After Dickens, actually John Irving, not David Irving, John Irving, who wrote The Silent House Rules and The World According to Garp, and who is often seen as a modern Dickens in his way. And of course, The Silent House Rules is an update of David Copperfield. Certainly my favourite contemporary author. And growing up in Ireland, I will say that when I was in my teenage years and in my early 20s, when people like Colin Sabine and Robbie Doyle and Colin McCann were becoming successful on an international stage and winning awards and having movies made of their books and becoming really respected for 18, 19-year-olds aspiring writer in Dublin. And that was hugely important because it said to me that it could be done. It wasn't a complete fantasy on my part, but that guy Robbie Doyle down the road did it, so why can't I? So people like that. But I still read very widely. I read as much as I can. I'm very interested in new writers. I read as many debut books as I possibly can. I'm always interested in that. I'm a reader and a writer.
tarde. Eu queria saber se você for de Chimu, você gostaria de conhecer ou ter conhecido o menino como Bruno.
Yeah, I think so. I think Shmuel and Bruno are good boys. Shmuel is a lot smarter than Bruno is, for sure. I mean, I've always felt myself that Shmuel knows everything that's taking place because it's happening in front of him. But in those few moments every day where he goes to the fence, he's pretending that none of this is happening, because for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, he can just be a little kid again, you know, and he can just play and he can talk and have fun. I think their friendship is so important to both of them. The scene in the book where Bruno does betray Shmuel in the kitchen and tell Lieutenant Hopper that he doesn't know him. It was very important to me that after that Bruno would apologise, not just once but twice. He would be so upset, beyond upset, because he would feel, he would know the value and the strength of this friendship, and he would see in Shmuel somebody who he wants to be like, and who he wants to be liked by. So, yeah, I think they're both good kids.
Boa tarde, primeiramente. E, assim, ao seu ponto de vista, o que você pensa a respeito dos autores, principalmente atuais, que escrevem um livro que não tem muito a ensinar, alguma coisa, bastante ficção, que não tem alguma coisa de lição, ao contrário do Menino, Pijama, Listrado, que você quis conscientizar as pessoas com o caso do Holocausto e tudo mais. Só o que você pensa a respeito disso?
Look, I think there's, reading is supposed to be a pleasurable pastime. You're supposed to enjoy reading. It's not supposed to be hard work. It's not supposed to be just to educate you. You know, it's supposed to be enjoyable. So I think there's room for everything in reading. I mean, if you're talking about things like, say, Dan Brown, you know, the Da Vinci Code. You know, I read the Da Vinci Code. You know, I read it. It passed a few days. You know, it was a bit of fun. Why not? You know, you can't spend your life reading Philip Roth every day of the week. You know, you have to have a little bit of lightness between the darkness. So, you know, it's the old thing, you know, Oscar Wilde said about, you know, whether a book is moral or immoral. A book is either well written or badly written. And everything I read, I just want to be well written. I want it to be a story that entertains me, and that whether it moves me to tears, or makes me think, or makes me laugh, or just takes me away from my life for a few hours. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Gostaria de saber o que você acha sobre a literatura brasileira, algum autor, algum livro, você destacaria algum?
Well, we were just talking earlier about this because one of the disadvantages of coming from an English language nation and an English language publishing world is that UK publishers, British publishers, are really, really bad. They're awful at bringing translated fiction to us. They're not as bad as the Americans are. The Americans are terrible. You know, there's no translated fiction in America, USA. But in Britain, it's really, really low. And you know, I've been asked my publisher here, you know, who are the contemporary Brazilian authors? And unfortunately, I said earlier, I like to find new people, read new books, read new authors, and they're not translated. And it's a great shame. And it's, you know, and so I can't tell you people that I like from Brazil because the British publishers just aren't translating it. It's a really, really small market, and I don't know how we can fix it, but it's something that needs to be fixed quite a bit. Because I mean, you I imagine, and certainly foreign language countries to me that I visit, English literature, North American literature, is translated all the time. You have access to all of our literature, but we don't have access to yours. And I think that's a real shame.